So Inferno Human writes, and I'm going to just kind of take this because it's an interesting topic in and of itself. Before whether we turn this into a video, who knows? If you're watching this on YouTube, guys, we did it. Saying, I know you probably don't want to talk about the guy called Asmongold. Actually, I like talking about Asmongold. He's a very interesting individual, especially his real person, Zachar, or Zach in this case. But
I don't think Zachar is his legal name.
Right? No, I don't think it's his legal name.
I mean, he lives in the same state as us. Maybe we could drive down and look in the phone book for Zachar. He'd probably be the only one.
That'd be weird.
I don't think Rar is in the name.
Never go to people's houses.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Even if their name is Zachar, don't do it.
So, do you think he should play the game? Sorry for asking, but I know he's known for hating Final Fantasy XIV. Yes, I think Asmongold should absolutely play Final Fantasy XIV. I think he should absolutely skip the story. I don't think anybody should be required to play the story in Final Fantasy XIV. I think what you do, if you sell the game, the world, and the gameplay, somebody like Zach, somebody like like a lot of I think a lot of gamers overall who have no nostalgia for Final Fantasy, you're not going to hook them on a story. You're not going to hook them on a narrative. You're going to hook them on gameplay and the community first. And because the community sets the game and the story on such a high pedigree, I do as well. I like and I really have enjoyed the story. I've got expansions that are obviously my favorite over others. But for me, I've been very critical of Stormblood, but that's changed with Bozja. I felt like Stormblood just never ended. It was just like, okay, here we go. And then all of a sudden we're going to take a timeout. And now we've somewhat completed the Stormblood story from my personal experience. So I'm actually I have a much better respect for Stormblood than I did going into Shadowbringers. But that being said, I think as a community with Asmongold, with anybody, it doesn't matter if they're big, small, or whatever, we have to stop story gating. We have to stop saying you have to enjoy the story. Let them enjoy the game and then let the story invite them in. And the best way of that is New Game Plus. Chris, you got a rebuttal?
So where does the story gating come from? Because I was watching Xeno the other day, and Xeno skips story. That's a full-time Final Fantasy XIV content creator.
Mm-hmm. And do you think Xeno gets the same crap from people who tend to go and bully?
He doesn't get death threats.
Well, or he just ignores them. I mean, we don't know if he does or not. We know that we have. We know that,
That's true. We have.
Right.
And I'm a story skipper, so I'm not making it better. Well, this expansion I'm not. And I will say the reason I still identify as one is because I resent people who use me as an example of people who said they didn't like story and changed their mind, because I didn't change my mind because of A Realm Reborn.
Right.
I didn't change my mind because of Heavensward. I didn't change my mind because of Stormblood. I changed my mind because of Shadowbringers. I changed my mind to try it. I did not have to like it. And because I did, it does not mean that the way I played previously is wrong or that I regret it. I don't. I am happy with how I got here.
Now, the question whether Asmongold would enjoy 14 or not can only, in my opinion, be answered by him actually playing the game. All of his experience comes from somebody looking from the outside in. He's got MMO experience. His game is WoW. Like, I don't even think he considers himself a gamer because he's a WoW player. He has been for 16 years, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know
He plays
lot
Dark
of
Souls.
Oh, he does play Dark Souls now?
He plays a lot
I know
of
that
Dark
he's
Souls.
also been playing New World, and especially because having interviews with that, we were like, that's a whole topic for, another video in and of itself. But at the core of it, I would say that, like his game experience is that he's played a handful of games. He's not a variety content creator. He has such knowledge and integration to World of Warcraft that most of the people, if you said Asmongold, would identify him as a WoW player. Yes or no? Like, if I'm completely out of left
No,
field.
he absolutely, and he knows that he is outside the norm. So when people say that they want to be like him, he usually draws a line in the sand right then and there if he's live. He is not trying to be something to emulate. He is not trying to be a well-rounded gamer. He is not trying to be a well-rounded WoW player. He is trying to be Asmon, and Asmon is a personality that is even independent of Zachar. And on Zachar, he sometimes reveals when there is a discrepancy between what he wants to do in real life, right? When there's a divergence in like how he feels healthy as a person and who Asmongold is. And that's why sometimes he takes little breaks. That's why sometimes he needs some time off after something like the Race to World First, because who he is and who his personality is, the bigger he's gotten, that personality has grown into being so much bigger than him.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are very lucky in that, let's just assume by some miracle of the internet, we were the same size as Zach, or even a fraction of, for Asmongold. Work to Game, from its very core thing, is defined as Chris and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you take on a name and I take on a name and that personality, and you have to be that note and I have to be that note, and we're those people. There's Chris and Brian, and then it happens to be fueled by people that are named Chris and Brian. Even if our personalities become that thing, and we focus on trying to make sure that part of our personality is what shows up live, and we keep the rest private for ourselves so that it becomes this product that allows a community, there's still two things there. Like, this community is and as a result, it's allowed for you and me to have a number of different personalities in the community, where I think Work to Game has aspects of its personality that aren't you or me.
Mm-hmm.
There are aspects of this community that have nothing to do with you and me. There are people in this group that have organized all sorts of different groups in game. There are people in our community that have gone and set off their own things. And so what's nice is that it's very clearly different than us. When you talk about a single person creator, somebody like Asmongold, he is the face. And so it's very easy to think that everything that is the Asmongold brand, the Asmongold channel on Twitch, is Zach. And that's just not true. So no, he is not a gamer in the all-inclusive broad sense, but he's still a member of the gaming community, mm-hmm. just like all of us are. Right. And he still has a valid viewpoint. Keep that viewpoint in mind, right?
It's all about context.
The guy has 15, 20 years of gaming experience, and 75 to 80% of that was spent within World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the lens we're looking through. So when you ask somebody with that portfolio, what do you think of Final Fantasy games? Why would you ask that?
Right. He hasn't played, so forcing him to play the story within Final Fantasy XIV would be just inviting him to meme and hate on it and say, this is the reason why I don't like this game. And when we look at it, we have to speak on the game critically from a place of love, from somebody who has played the story, who does know the story, who has continued to play this game. The obvious fact that I'm so happy to see this story conclude with 6.0 is important, because stories should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this has been a saga. And I find it unfair, especially from story gators who say, like, you have to spend 600 hours before you can come and play my game. Now, I believe, and I've been called out on this, and people have said, things to me that basically say that, opinion, like either my opinion isn't valid or not all opinions are valid. And I respond with, I believe all opinions are valid as long as you marry that with the context of where that person's opinion is coming from. If I'm going to say, take Lazy Peon, for example. Chris, you reacted to one of his big videos in which that his context of what makes an MMORPG valid or good or worth his time was defined in that video. Good PvP, social experience, no solo, something of that nature. I'm doing a massive paraphrase for that. That context makes his 14 video make more sense. And so yes. I think that as long as you take time to set the context, guys, this is my 5-hour preview of this game, and this is what I think of it, versus, guys, this is my 5,000-hour review of this game, and here are my thoughts on it. As long as I'm able to communicate to you where I'm coming from. That's why you'll usually hear me say, like, as a dad, as a gamer, as somebody who might have limited time or might find my time sucked away, you're going to not see me play a lot of single player games that are M-rated. You're just not. It's just, I'm going to play Mario with my kids. I'm going to spend time with my family. That's where my time is best spent. That's where I should be. And I'm not saying that you have to adopt me. You don't have to take on the mantle of, oh, this is what Brian thinks, I should think the same way. No, I'm just usually trying to set the context of my opinion. So in the case of Zach, I think I would love for him to play 14. I would love for him to. And I would love for him to hit that skip button And if he enjoys his experience and then he wants to learn more about it, then New Game Plus is ready and wide open for him. It doesn't have to become a barrier. And I think the community, if they were accepting of that and encouraging of that for somebody who clearly, like especially with Lazy Peon, especially with like a lot of other creators, just says, you know what, fall in love with the world. And then if you want to learn more, there's a way for you to do so. That's just my thought, Chris.
No, I think that really sums up. That's what gives a path. I mean, I'm incredibly biased towards that path because I came into this game to share it with friends. I wanted to share the group battle content with friends. I came from a game where I knew the group battle content really well. And so the only goal here was to play with that group of friends. And so I just needed to learn the gap between raiding and WoW and doing 8-man content with my friends in 14. That's all I needed. And the fastest way to do there was to skip the story, play one class, follow the gear progression to the degree of the content we're going to clear, and then show up on time with a good attitude on the nights that we agreed to play together. That's all that was required of me. And I have other games in my life. I have other things going on in my life. And so, you know, at varying times, those other things have taken more time than others. And so that determines how far down that list I get in Final Fantasy XIV. There are other things I want to get to. There are things I like. I like Triple Triad. I like getting unmounts. I like all these things. And I only get down that list as far as time allows. And there's always more on the list than I have time for. And so I'm always forced to skip the things that I don't have time for. So I'm definitely not going to do things I don't like. And so I've never really gone to MMOs for my desire to have a fantasy narrative in my head that makes my imagination turn, makes my view of the world adjust a little. I've always gotten that from other medium. I've gotten that from books on tape. I've gotten that from movies, from TV. I do occasionally read a book. That's just been a single player games where I can, especially games that have a lot of agency where I have choice. I really like roguelikes where I can, if I'm going to write my own story, I like having a lot of control over like, what if I just stole something out of this guy's pocket while he was talking to me. And then it's like, oh, he caught you. Okay, now what? Oh, you're going to jail. Okay, now what? I like getting to escape the real world where I would never do that and try things out and seeing the ramifications. It's one of the reasons I like playing as non-human races. The goal is that it's not me. 14 doesn't really scratch that itch for me. And so I skipped all of that. But what you described says, okay, then get to the thing you want to get to. And maybe some of those things that you've been keeping down at the bottom of your list will creep their way up. Maybe we'll fight a big bad boss at the end of the 5.0
who
story.
Was that? You know?
And at the end of that 5.0 story, we fought a big bad boss and I had questions. And the answers to those questions were in some of that stuff I skipped. We didn't delete that content. It's not gone. And so, yes, I wouldn't have had the questions if I'd watched it the first time, but I also probably would have quit. So
it never made it there, right?
Yeah, I would have never made it there.
We see that happen a lot.
Now I get to go back.
The question, Chris, because I'm gonna, you know, we're coming up on time here, but the question I have for you is that would it be beneficial for him to actually start, like, do the skip by pressing the skip button, rather than do a story skip and a job skip, where like literally from level 1, or would you say like would it be better for Asmongold to start in Shadowbringers at level 70? And then play that expansion. Like, I mean, obviously we're speculating here, but that's the battle I rage right now. Like, is it better to start in Shadowbringers or is it better to start?
Am I going to just invent the content cycle by which it would be most intriguing to tune into Asmongold as
pretty
a 14
much
player?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So Scottzone is here's my version of reality.
Yeah.
Scottzone is back, never left. Scottzone agrees to co-stream to squad stream with Asmongold. And we are now going to min item level through every Savage and Extreme in order. So we're going to boost Asmongold to top. We're going to put him on a dummy and teach him one class that most closely resembles his warrior. And
would that be
we
warrior?
are going to straight up get into the content in order. And we are just going to play through all of the battle content at max level. After that, if he has a question why some things look that way, then we're going to new game plus him into just the portions of story that explain those bosses. What is the deal with that primal? And odds are, because of his style of content, instead what we're going to do is he's going to react. He's going to do reaction videos to Ethis Asher or Lucron or somebody like that, explaining who that primal is. He will never actually touch it in game. That covers his 30% of his stream where he's doing reaction content, because he's really good at reaction content. And so that's, you know, he plays a Fury Warrior. Bring him in as a DPS so he can just sit in the back. So maybe the new DPS is a really fun one for him. That's a good excuse. So let's go put him on Reaper, which doesn't exist. Let's have Scottzone host and be his Sherpa, or Llama Todd, but probably Scottzone because he can handle his shtick. Scottzone was always really good at kind of taking that on. And
I miss that guy.
Scottzone will carry him through. This is my perfect reality. This is assuming that they're both just going to do whatever I want to entertain me. That is a stream that literally, like, if their stream was from 7 a.m. because Scottzone was always in the morning to 9 a.m., that is the type of stream that, like, that is so intriguing to me as an idea that I would probably move our streams back to starting at 9 a.m. so I didn't have to miss it.
Interesting.
I would probably rearrange my workday to make sure that I could sit in 2 hours of Scottzone and Asmongold playing minimum item level blind through every piece of high-end 14 content.
I don't think I could look away. I think it would be such an interesting thing to see the impact on the Final Fantasy community. I know a lot of people were worried that a lot of toxicity would come in, but like when you look at like, I think it's the same ratio overall because people view his community as toxic. I always see him shut that stuff down, but that's just, I don't, lurk in his streams all the time. Now, kind of my final thought on this before we conclude this video. Thanks everybody for being here. Like, favorite, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. The core of this is that I honestly see that New World could end up being a better transition for a lot of WoW players who are looking for something more. That's the talk and the undertone. And while New World still has a lot to do to prove itself, it's going to be interesting to see if Amazon, as a juggernaut, decides to continue that, kind of throwing themselves at the wall and see if that wall will eventually give. Asmongold has played New World. He streamed at lots of interest in that regards. It needed a lot of work. They're taking a whole nother year. It's coming out this August. Especially when we talk about if 9.1 comes out before New World, that actually would benefit New World, in my opinion. It gives people to jump back into WoW who've been hungry, do that content, and then all of a sudden it's like when they're sitting here going like, do we got to wait another 12 months for 9.2? I don't know. Then there's this new, brand new game which will have hype, which will have traction, and could eventually make it something as a natural transition for somebody off of a 16, 17-year-old MMORPG onto a new one that has contrasting differences in its narrative and things like that. But that's just the potential future that I see happening. I could see that being kind of a big shifting factor, but ultimately we'll know more in August of 2022 if New World's going to be something that you should be checking out. But that's just my opinion. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up this video? Impromptu.
No, totally impromptu. So we didn't shout out a community member. We didn't do anything. We just talked. Just talking about gaming, kinda.
Yeah. Sub to Chris's channel. He's actually posting videos again. Yay! All right, guys. For Work the Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, but we'll see you next time.
Take care.
There it is. Sorry, I was like, I like the.
He usually says, but until then, it usually sets me up.